Hi, I'm Kate from dailytarotgirl.com, and in this video I want to discuss a topic that is near and dear to my heart, and that is how technology affects our intuition. So I've noticed that especially over the last couple of years, we are spending more and more time engaging with technology, more time online, more time looking at screens. And I've also noticed that on the whole, that we as a society tend to becoming more and more cut off from our intuition. And I especially notice this within myself as well. So in this video, I'm going to explore 4 main ways that I think technology messes up our intuition, and I'm going to give you 4 delicious ways to counteract it. So if you want to see the written version of this video, I'm going to put the link to my blog post just below this video if you want to check it out. All right, so before we dive into things, I want to kind of define what I mean by technology and what I mean by intuition. So when I talk about technology, I'm basically referring to screens and the things that we engage in through those screens. So, going online, looking at social media, watching TV shows, things like that. So I'm really referring to like smartphones, tablets, laptops, TVs. There's so many other forms of technology out there, like lawnmowers and vacuums and whatnot. I'm not really referring to those things. I'm mainly referring to screens and the online world. And I define intuition as being the channel of communication between you and your higher self, or your expanded self, that sort of wise, eternal part of yourself. And I also think intuition is our ability to pick up on, energy, to sort of tune into the invisible realm and kind of pick up on non-physical information. All right, so I find that in order to tap into my intuition, it really helps to be calm, to be grounded, to be patient, to be in the present moment, and to be able to really focus and connect to your heart and connect to your body. And when I engage with technology, I feel like the opposite of that happens. So when I'm engaging with technology, I notice I feel tense. I often feel really impatient, and time seems to kind of speed up. I feel really ungrounded. Sometimes I feel unfocused, sometimes not. But I notice that whenever I'm engaging with technology, it puts me in a space that's really difficult to connect to my intuition. And the problem isn't that technology is kind of ungrounding or that it disconnects us from our intuition. The problem is that we're spending so much time looking at screens. We're spending so much time engaging with technology. So I have this fear. I really fear that the amount of time that we spend looking at screens and being online and engaging with technology is destroying our intuition. And I'm so worried about what that's going to mean for us as a society, because I think that our intuition really that reflects your ability to connect with yourself. And I think that the quality of the connections that we have with ourselves is reflected in the way that we can connect with others and the world around us. So let's start with the first way that I think technology messes with our intuition. Technology keeps you in your head. Technology is ungrounding by its very nature. Most technology is designed to kind of lift us up out of a physical existence and untether us to the physical realm. So take like washing machines, for example. If it wasn't for a washing machine, you would be, down by the river on your hands and knees scrubbing your clothing, which is, obviously that's not going to be fun, but that's a very grounding physical experience. But with a washing machine, you don't have to do that. You just put your clothes in the washing machine and walk away, which that's a good thing. It's not bad, but it is ungrounding by its very nature. And Technology disconnects us from our bodies and keeps us stuck in our head. Next time you're engaging with technology, so next time you're looking at something on your phone or you're online, check in with your body and just notice where you're at. Whenever I do this, I'm always up in my head. I'm never in my body. And when you're in your body, when you really sink into your body and tune into your body, you can tap into so much information. Anyone who's studied somatics or somatic therapy will know what I mean. But the body is often where a lot of our wisdom is stored and a lot of information is stored. And so just by being able to connect with the body and tune into kind of the subtle feelings and sensations of the body, we can really learn a lot about ourselves just from doing that. And that is, in many ways, a form of intuition. It's a way that our higher self, our wise, infinite self, communicates with us. And what technology does is it moves your focus up into your head so that you're not as connected with your body. So next time you're looking at your phone, you're watching a TV show or something like that, just notice where you're at. You'll probably find that you're not really connected with your body because you're focused on the screen. You're focused on whatever you're focused on. And you kind of leave your body for a moment. And in order to tune into your intuition, you really have to be in your body. And so my solution to how to counteract this is to do what I call a 5 senses check-in. And this is actually a really juicy, delicious exercise to do throughout the day. You can do it once a day or just whenever you feel like you want to get grounded and tune back into your body. And this is where you check in with your 5 senses and you just notice what they're picking up. So you notice what your sense of smell is picking up. You notice what you're seeing with your eyes, what you're tasting, what you're hearing, and your sense of touch. So I'm going to lead you through a brief exercise. We're just going to tune into 2 of those 5 senses. So I want you to tune into your sense of touch right now. And I want you to just start by noticing where your body is connected to the chair or the floor, and just notice how that feels. And putting your hands either on your thighs or on your arms and just feeling the fabric of your clothing and just noticing how that feels under the palms of your hands. And then I want you to tune into your hearing. Notice what you can hear in the room that you're in. You might notice that there's various layers to the sound. So right now you're hearing my voice, but you might also hear kind of a background hum of something. It might be traffic, you might be hearing other people in your household or your neighbors, but just really noticing all the various layers of sound. And then of course you would tune into your sense of sight, taste, smell. And what this does is it helps you slow down and it brings you into your body. It moves you out of your head and into your body. And it moves you into the present moment. And those are 2 places you need to be, in your body, in the present moment, in order to really connect with your intuition. So the second way that technology messes with our intuition is technology speeds things up and it makes you impatient. I don't know if you've noticed this, but I noticed this the other day. I was on a website and it was taking a few seconds to load and I just got so impatient and I went to a different website. I was like, screw it. I was just so impatient. And I noticed that whenever I'm scrolling through social media, whether it's like Reddit or Facebook or Instagram, I have this sense of impatience when I'm doing it, like a sense of boredom mixed with being impatient. And I really feel like technology, because technology is so quick, it's so fast, and it's really starting to make us more acclimated to that like really clippity clip 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 fast pace of day-to-day life. And I think that it speeds things up. It makes things, you know, like email and stuff like that makes things like really fast and quick, as opposed to, for example, like writing letters. So things are, in the technology world, things are they're instant, they're really quick. And that is causing us to kind of, for time to sort of speed up, and it's causing us to be more impatient. And in order to connect with your intuition, first of all, you need to be patient, but things need to slow down. And slowing down is like the key that turns the lock, that opens the lock to your intuition. It's impossible to activate or to connect to your intuition if you're in a rush, if you're feeling impatient, and if you feel like things are moving quickly. So my solution to this issue is to consciously plan for activities that help you slow down, and to do these activities daily as much as you can, particularly in the evenings before bed. I find this really helps me go to sleep at night. So I'm going to give you some examples of activities that help me slow down. So reading a physical book, I've noticed if I read on Kindle or if I read on my tablet, it doesn't have the same effect. I'm still in that fast-paced, impatient mode, but if I'm reading like a physical paper book, it really helps me slow down and ground. If I write like with my hand in a notebook, that's another activity that helps me slow down. Spending time with animals, just going for a walk outside, any form of exercise, as long as it's not somehow connected to technology in any way. Any form of exercise I find helps me slow down. Even if I'm moving fast, it helps my mind slow down. Gardening and, you know, putting your hands in the dirt, any kind of plant care can have this effect. And even things that I hate doing, like I don't love cooking, I don't love cleaning, but those are activities that do help me slow down. And so sometimes if I'm really stressed, I'll just take an hour and I'll do some vacuuming and, you know, do some cleaning. And that usually just like kind of brings my mind down to a slower pace. All right. So yeah, so what these things do when I spend time doing those things, and really they're things that are, you know, are not involving technology, they're in the real physical world, and it helps me get on a wavelength that's conducive to tuning into my intuition. So I want you to make your own list of activities that help you slow down. So the third way that I think technology messes up our intuition is technology creates tension. So things like texting, like smartphones, email, all that stuff has supposedly made things, you know, more accessible, more convenient, but it also creates a certain kind of stress and tension that none of us had before these things were central in our lives. I feel like technology is, especially phones, is constantly interrupting us. I go for a walk with my friend and she always brings her phone, and her phone is constantly making noises. It's constantly pinging and dinging, and she gets it out and looks at it. And I can't help but think, like, that must be so irritating to be interrupted constantly, no matter what you're doing. And I think that we really underestimate the effect that being interrupted constantly has on us, because I think that you can never really sink into deep thought when you're always being interrupted. You can never really get beyond just sort of scratching the surface of day-to-day life when your attention is always being called to something else. So I think that it's really hard to be fully present in the now when we're surrounded by technology, if that technology is always interrupting us. And I think that in order to really nurture our intuition, it really requires presence, and it requires long stretches of time where we're not constantly interrupted. So my solution to this is to actively plan for time away from technology. So time where I'm not checking email, I'm not looking at a phone, I'm not going online. And so sometimes I'll do this on like Saturday or Sunday. I'll plan a whole day where I don't go online. Or even in the evenings, I always try at a certain time to shut everything down and just go the rest of the evening without looking at any devices or going online or looking at a screen. I don't always succeed, but I've noticed that when I do succeed, I go to bed a little bit earlier and I sleep much better and I don't have problems falling asleep. And I think that the key to doing this, the key to actively planning for time away from technology, the key is to see that time as sacred and precious and to make it pleasure-filled. And this is something that I think we don't do enough. We don't actively cultivate pleasure enough. So don't see it as depriving yourself of going online or depriving yourself of your phone. See it as something that is sacred and pleasurable, something that you actually look forward to. So I'll give you some suggestions on how you can kind of consciously cultivate pleasure in your offline, disconnected life. So I like to plan activities that really engage my five senses. And it could be something really simple like cooking my favorite meal, but taking a little extra time to like set the table, light a candle, and then like play some nice music and just like take my time eating instead of scarfing down a meal while I'm like standing in my kitchen, reading the newspaper, which is something I do all the time. Or even just like going for a walk in the neighborhood where I like just slow down. I take the time to like smell flowers that are like growing over fences and pet neighborhood cats and things like that. Just like really slowing down and consciously cultivating pleasure. So the fourth and final way that technology messes with our intuition is technology crowds and distracts us. And I don't know if you'll be able to relate to this, but every now and then I get this feeling that will rise up in me. It usually happens in the evening. And all of a sudden I'll get this feeling, and it's a subtle feeling of like discontent, or like the feeling that something is wrong, but I'm not sure what it is. And if I sit with the feeling, it feels like a void. It's like a void of darkness and nothingness that I'm worried will just like open up like a big chasm and like swallow me whole. And this is when I will often reach for a device. I'll reach for my tablet. I want to go online. I want to turn on the TV. I want to do something to distract me from this really uncomfortable feeling that is just kind of like in the background. It's this background noise of discontent. And technology is really good at that. It's really good at taking our focus, taking our time and our energy so that we're not busy dwelling on that uncomfortable feeling. But what I've noticed is that when I sit with that feeling, and for you that feeling might be boredom. It might be boredom, or it might be like impatience, or it might be something scarier, like it might be a sense of terror or anxiety. And what I've noticed is that when I sit with that feeling and I allow that feeling to be there and I really go into that void, I go into that feeling, it's almost like you go into it and you come out on the other side. And when you come out on the other side, that's where you connect with your intuition. You can't go around the feeling to connect with your intuition. You've got to go through that feeling. And once you go through that feeling, it dissipates. And what I've noticed is I'll let this feeling get bigger and I'll try to dialogue with this feeling and see if this feeling has a message for me or wants to tell me something. And I will get the most interesting things from doing this. I'll sometimes get like really specific suggestions of things that I need to do or not do. Other times it just, sheds light on something really important to me that I have kind of been ignoring. And so it's really, really interesting. But I guess the point I'm trying to make is that if we don't take the time and create that stillness to go into that feeling, if we just reach for, a device, then we deprive ourselves of that experience of getting intimate with ourselves and really connecting with our intuition. So you don't find your intuition and your inner wisdom by distracting yourself or by numbing out. You find it by going into that feeling. And I suggest really taking advantage of the empty spaces in your day-to-day life. Like there's moments where we have to stand in line at the grocery store, or we're waiting in a doctor's office, or you're, on the bus on your commute to work. And these are all times that I see people reaching for their phones and looking at them. And before phones, this might have been a time for you to just kind of gap out and daydream. And so in many ways, I think that technology, and specifically I'm kind of referring to smartphones, but you could say, also television shows and things like that, it's depriving us of the opportunity to daydream. And our minds want to wander. And sometimes we really need to allow our minds to just be playful and wander and daydream. And that is really how we create space for our intuition to show up. So I suggest that the next time you find yourself standing in a line or sitting on the bus, instead of reaching for your phone, just give yourself permission to daydream and let your mind wander and see what happens. I also want to say that technology has this way of devouring our time. I don't know if you've ever had that experience of being like, okay, I'm just going to check my email and then I'm going to go to bed. And then like 3 hours go by and you're on YouTube watching weird videos, or you're on some site reading some article and you're like, how did I even get here? Like what happened to the last 2 hours or whatever? So I find that technology is hungry for our time, and time flies by when you're, looking at a screen, I find. So, and I think that our time is our most valuable, one of our most sacred resources, and that it's a tragedy if we waste it. So the solution to all of this, there's a few solutions. So the first solution is to go into that void or that uncomfortable feeling that might bubble up from time to time, whether it's boredom or impatience or loneliness or sadness, rather than reaching for a device or a screen. Allow yourself the luxury of, I say luxury, but allow yourself the experience of going into that feeling and even exploring that feeling, dialoguing with that feeling and seeing if it has a message for you. And go on a daydream date for yourself, with yourself. So grab a notebook, a pen, a blanket, a hot cup of tea, and go find a quiet place for an hour or 20 minutes and just give yourself that luxury of unstructured time where you're not looking at a device, you're not looking at a screen, and just let yourself daydream, let your mind wander. So in conclusion, I just want to add that I think that intuition is the way that we connect with ourselves. It's the way that we connect with our, higher, expanded, infinitely wise part of ourselves. And I think that how we connect with ourselves is also how we connect with others. And so if we aren't able to connect to ourselves and connect to our intuition, all our connections with others will also be at risk. And I also think that the world that we see around us is a reflection of our inner world. And if we can't connect with our inner world and ourself, then that is going to be reflected in the world around us. And so I think that it's so important to acknowledge the effect that technology is having on our intuition and our relationship with ourselves and with others. It's just, it's so important. So I want to hear from you. What kinds of activities and what kinds of ways have helped you connect with your intuition in a, technology obsessed, screen filled world? What are your techniques? What are your go-tos? What are the things that help you get grounded, get centered, and hook back in, connect back in to your intuition? I'd love to hear from you. in the comments below. So thank you so much for watching. You can find out more about me on my website, dailytarotgirl.com. And if you enjoyed this video, please consider subscribing to my channel and leaving me a comment. Thank you so much for watching.